Tonight, getting behind North Korea's propaganda wall. South Africa's secret taxi language.
2 fingers.
And leading Lebanon. David Hardacre interviews Prime Minister Senora.
I am soft in my words, but very firm in my positions.
Hello and welcome to Foreign Correspondent. I'm Stephen McDonnell in Hong Kong. This week it seems there's been some good news from North Korea. After months of wrangling, the isolated regime has decided it will allow international nuclear inspectors back into the country. Whether this means it's actually preparing to give up nuclear weapons as promised, it's too early to say. After all, we are talking about North Korea, where nothing is certain, as you'll see from tonight's story. We're about to get on a flight for Pyongyang. North Korea is one of the toughest places for a journalist to get into, but we've been invited. We're going on an official tour though, so we'll see what they show us.
We board a vintage Air Courier Tupolev. The propaganda is soon at hand. North Korea apparently owes it all to former leader and still godlike figure Kim Il-sung. The only other significant contributor has been his son and current leader, Kim Jong-il. We arrive in North Korea's capital, a city shrouded in mystery. Pyongyang is North Korea's showcase, with boulevards, monuments, grand government buildings, and signature traffic police. The capital is home to the country's elite, who are sheltered from its worst hardships. The city seems frozen in time. There's no advertising, no jeans, mobile phones are banned, and people seem to walk everywhere. Basic utilities are in short supply, but the propaganda machine never sleeps. It's day one of our 4-day express tour. There are 12 of us and will be accompanied at all times by 4 minders. We're not allowed to leave the hotel without them.
This is the Jung-Guyo. In English it is in the Central District.
Kim Hyun-chol is our main guide. First stop Mangyongdae, the ancestral home of the great leader Kim Il-sung. It's Sunday, North Korea's day of rest, and there are plenty of visitors. Mr. Kim's already frustrated that we're not paying enough attention.
Some people listen to me and some people didn't listen to me. Yes. Yeah. Let's go. Switch. Let's go.
Visitors enthusiastically drink from the great leader's family well.
Not bad.
It's very cold.
I also drink the water of this well every time I came here because the well was used by the family of our President Kim Il-sung.
And the photos on its both sides show his father and his mother. So
the people who are permitted to guide us are chosen for their loyalty and for their understanding of the Senate's position on matters, and they are supposed to be representatives of that position.
All right, here we go.
Joining our tour is American journalist and author Bradley Martin. This is his 6th trip to North Korea in the last 18 years. Having written a book about the personality cults of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, he's a little surprised he's been allowed back in.
Americans basically are not welcome here in general. The only way I've been in recent times is as a tourist. And this is a country that's based on propaganda. And what they show us on these tours is propaganda. So I come here and I gratefully receive the latest installment of the propaganda, and I try to see what's changed.
Next, the Russian-built subway. These are the best maintained stations in the system, and the only ones tourists ever get to see. Pyongyang's underground railway was built in 1973.
And how important is it to the life of Pyongyang, the subway?
I know that 50,000 people use this metro every day. So it plays a good role in transportation of the people.
50,000 out of 3 million Pyongyang residents isn't that many. The vast majority of people either walk or use the trams and buses. We don't get a ride on them, possibly because they're falling apart. Moored on Pyongyang's Taedong River is the captured American Navy ship Pueblo. The North Koreans say it was spying on them when they seized it in 1968. Here Mr. Kim opens up a bit about his life in North Korea.
10 years ago, there was much difficulties for my family, not only food, clothes, and no electricity, no water. And now, every day, there are 2 or 3 hours of water. There comes the water and electricity. Yes, we have enough electricity. I have TV, computer, and refrigerator, tape recorder, and so on.
Your dear leader, how has he been able to look after the country? I mean, what do you think of his performance, if you like?
How can I know about that? Your question is something, there is something strange. How can I know about our leader's idea? How can a common person know the great and deep idea? I can't know.
When it's time to leave the city, we're told not to film while driving on country roads. Apparently, it's because we might see sensitive military facilities. But there's another reason.
They're ashamed of the countryside because every mountain and hill has been picked clean of vegetation. You see there's no forest out there. They have plowed the hillsides, all this to try to survive during the time of the famine.
In the mid-1990s, hundreds of thousands of people died of starvation in North Korea. Some estimates put the number in the millions. Whether people are still starving is difficult for us to find out. We're not allowed near ordinary people. But in March, the North Korean government made a rare admission that it's expecting a food shortfall of 20% this year. This could see hundreds of thousands suffer from malnutrition.
I assume that they're doing somewhat better than they were doing during the Great Famine, but they don't have anything to boast about in the rural areas, and they know it.
3 hours drive north of Pyongyang at Mount Myoyangsan, we're taken to the International Friendship Exhibition.
Yeah, you will try to open it with your one hand.
A museum dedicated to gifts given to Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il. Foreign cameras are not normally allowed through these doors, but we managed to convince them to let us in.
이 선생님이 그래도 비수심 하셨는데 한 점에 숨을 놓고 1분씩 봐도 1년 반이 걸립니다.
The collection of presents is enormous and diverse, with gifts from tyrants to sports stars, religious figures to corporate bosses.
So what do we have here? This is an alligator carrying a series of cups. It looks like it's from the Sandinistas in Nicaragua have given this present to the DPRK. Now here we have this bear from President Ceausescu of Romania. He's said to have actually killed this bear himself and given this as a present.
There's a bulletproof car given by the Soviet Union and used by Kim Il-sung during the Korean War.
Okay.
And if bulletproof cars aren't enough, a bulletproof train carriage given by Soviet leader Stalin.
This is a remarkably well fitted out train for what's essentially a security device for the president. We've got meeting rooms, bathrooms, sleeping compartments, and it's quite ornate.
There are even gifts from Australia.
옛날 이 사냥도구, 오스트랄리아 음악가 일행에 올린 이 사냥도구는 남들 짐승을 사냥할 때 던져서 그 먹을 질러가지고
and cut the neck of the animal. This one.
Amongst the Australian presents, some goblets from the Whitlam government.
So, but our people can.
When author Bradley Martin questions the rationale behind building a huge extension to the museum, our guide is not happy.
그리고 선생님은 95년부터 2000년까지 이 기간에 우리나라가 어떤 어려운 시련을 겪었는가 이에 대해서는 잘 알고 있지 않습니까?
When I suggested that this was a lot of money to spend at that time, 1995, when people were starving, she was outraged. She said, "It's our duty. It's our duty to take care of these gifts."
우리 인민들은 우리 수련님과 장군님께서 이렇게 인민의 제보를 하고 이 많은 선물들을 돌려주신 데 대해서 정말 감사하게 고맙게 이 생각하고 있습니다. 갑시다.
Back in Pyongyang, performers warm up for North Korea's mass gymnastics spectacular. It's the centerpiece of the Arirang Festival, with 100,000 performers.
At the Mayday Stadium. I've got my armband on for the press, and this is really the main reason we've been allowed into the country. The North Koreans are very proud of the Arirang Festival, and it is quite spectacular.
Arirang tells the story of the birth of North Korea. There's the war against Japanese occupation, and later prosperity and peace as the Korean Workers' Party comes to power. The exploits of great leader Kim Il-sung and dear leader Kim Jong-il are central to everything.
I'm looking at the show to see what it shows about their military stance. This time they changed it slightly. They took out some really blood-curdling, smoking scenes with lots of noise of North Korean soldiers just demolishing, wiping out their enemies, who are us, basically. In the place of that, they did not add a nuclear explosion scene.
Back Back in the bus, the performance sparks a discussion about the causes of the Korean War. Bradley Martin suggests it was North Korea which started it.
I can't stand that. Frankly speaking, sorry, I can't stand that. If you see that war in our country anymore, then I can't secure your life on this land.
Oh, that's frightening.
That's fine?
It's frightening. If I sat down and told them, well, you know, the Russian archives have opened up, and it says right there, Kim Il-sung went to Stalin 3 times asking for permission to invade the South, and finally Stalin said, yes, I'll help you, so let's do it. They would not believe me. They simply would not believe me, and they would have no basis for believing me. It's just not within their realm of experience to believe such a thing.
If you are right, let's begin the war just now between Korea and the U.S.
I don't think that should be right.
Why the U.S. Army is in South Korea? Why? Why?
South Korean people want it there right now.
They don't want it. You made the worse. You made it. You U.S. aggressors made it.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for the evening. Thank you.
North Korea seems at times like a giant closed-off museum. But there are some signs that the DPRK may be opening a little to the world.
North Korea is open to foreign investment and business. They are interested in getting more foreign investment because the development of the economy has a high priority. So the first one, that's an antibiotic.
Swiss businessman Felix Abt runs a pharmaceutical joint venture in Pyongyang.
This is aspirin.
It mainly produces painkillers and antibiotics for humanitarian organisations, but it's looking to export in the near future.
A very potent broadband.
He's opposed to international sanctions.
I believe that sanctions hinder economic development, and I think economic development, like elsewhere, including China, helps integrating the country into the larger world community, and I think that's in everybody's interest.
I want to pay special attention
Today we're off to Panmunjom, the village in the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea.
And that area, if you didn't keep the rule, it is permitted to shoot you.
우리 건물인데 판문각이라고 한다.
That is the Panmun Pavilion.
On arrival, we're briefed by Captain Han Myung-gil.
명백히 말할 거는 이 비무장지대 설정은
He says both sides worry about accidental shootings, with 1 million soldiers on either side of the frontier.
말대 말이면
Keen to know is the North Korean military's view of its government's recent promise to give up nuclear weapons as part of the six-party talks.
우리 이전 시기도 같지만 현재도 같습니다. 동시 행동 대 행동, 말 대 말입니다. 우리는 철저히. 그런데 우리 용변 바로 원자력 발전소 그걸 동결하겠다는 거지 핵무기를 포기했다고 말한 적은 없는 것 같은데요. 핵위협을 받지 않는 그 순간이 인정된 때부터 우리한테는 핵무기가 단 한 개도 필요 없습니다. 결국은 미국은 우리 보고 이렇게 총 선생하고 나고 그 총을 이렇게 마주대고 있다가 우리 보고 먼저 총 놓으라는 소리인데 이렇게 총을 같이 겨누고 있다가 우리가 먼저 총을 놓을 수가 있습니까? 우리 동시에 총 놓자고 동시에 같이 이렇게
Only at the same time, two sides can put down the rifle at the same time.
This is the point where soldiers from both sides face each other every day. An American comes to have a look at who on earth the North Koreans have brought here.
다만 가슴 아픈 거는 바로 매일 쭉 군사분계선 보는 것입니다. 하지만 저 군사분계선이 모자나 없어지고 전체 조선민족이 국가남을 자유롭게 해갈 날이 꼭 올 것이라고 믿고 있습니다.
Captain Han told me that the lesson of Iraq is that a strong country can defend itself, but a weak one will be beaten down. In the heart of Pyongyang is the monument to the Juche idea. The Juche philosophy is central to the regime's ideology. It means militarily, economically, and in all ways, North Korea doesn't need anyone else to survive. What most ordinary North Koreans think of Juche, nuclear weapons, or anything else about the way the country's run for that matter, is virtually impossible to know.
So is anything really changing? Are people getting sick and tired of this in their hearts? It's possible. Some people are, but how would they express this? It's a country where dissent is unthinkable.
As we prepare to leave the country, Mr. Kim wants to end on a good note.
Especially our professor, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Again, I say, you did a good job.
Despite their differences, Mr. Kim says he respects our author and wants us all to come back.
On behalf of the all members of our Korean International World Company, yes, definitely.
Thank you very much, guys.
Our minders have been anything but a bunch of cliched hardliners. They've been genuinely hospitable, helpful and fun.
Has it been interesting for you two, for us to be here?
Yes. I wish you a good health.
Yeah, I wish you good health too. Yeah. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Andrew Gagan in Johannesburg, which is notorious for its transport chaos. The city's lack of public transport means its residents have to rely on minibus taxis to get around. But catching one requires an expert knowledge of the unwritten law of taxi sign language.
How does a city of 8 million people keep moving? Those that can afford to drive. For those that can't, and millions of mostly black residents who commute daily from the townships certainly can't, there's only one option. The minibus taxi. But there's an art to catching one. Thumbing a lift won't get you anywhere. You need to be proficient in taxi sign language.
So if I want to go to the city, how do I signal the taxi that to pick me up?
You point upwards.
Just one finger up?
Just one finger up.
And what if I wanted to come back to the township? What would I do?
You still point one finger up.
But how do they know the difference? It depends where I am.
It depends where you are.
And if you want to go to Tembisa?
2 fingers. Yep.
In Pretoria, when you go to the station, you have to symbol like this. When you stop the taxi,
as though you're a train, so
yeah,
you're going like that, are you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Look, there's another one like that I've seen people do. What's that mean?
Like this. That one...
It's got you, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Johannesburg is overrun with minibus taxis. 50,000 of them. They're both a curse and a cure. While keeping the city moving, they can also bring it to a grinding halt. They follow their own set of road rules, stopping wherever and whenever, failing to indicate and travelling at any speed. Car drivers think they're the scourge of the streets.
They suck. They drive us off the road and cause accidents.
Don't get me started. Rude, they don't obey the traffic laws and they get away with a lot of things. I've learned to live with it.
No, they have to move the nation, huh? Somebody has to do it.
I still wasn't confident about how to catch one of these despised necessities. It was time for some advanced tuition.
Okay. This is town?
Town. But does it matter which finger?
This one.
Right, okay.
And this is local. If you want to go to Santin.
Santon.
Yes.
And that's just, what, 5 fingers out, is it?
And this one.
What's that?
5, Randburg.
But what if you wanted to go and see your friend who was across town? How would you do that?
You went down, then you take another taxi.
Okay, so you got to catch taxi to taxi. And
If you want to go to Tipsmith, yeah, you have to do.
And why is it that?
I don't know, which means you have to, I don't know what this thing means. You have to do like this.
And then if you're going to main lane, you turn it like this.
Turn.
Yeah.
Rabarich.
What's that?
Rabarich. Rabarich.
I can't even pronounce it, so I probably won't be going there.
So, with a basic knowledge of the local lingo, I attempted to make my way out of the township.
Go to the city. So, did you have problems understanding where I wanted to go when I held the finger up?
No, I don't have a problem because you know what? If you're pointing up, I don't know that person is going to town. Many people they are relying on taxis because the taxis are so cheap and they are so fast.
Right on 105.8 FM on Studio 8 is exactly 18 minutes after the over 10 o'clock right here on Josie FM. Well, that's what we call it.
Colin Ramadike has been driving taxis for the past 10 years.
And how many passengers a day do you think you pick up?
Plus minus 400 to 500 per day.
Really? A day?
Yes.
So is that good money?
Yeah, it's a good money.
To service that many passengers, Colin Ramadike needs to bend some rules.
You must drive in other way.
Okay, you're saying perhaps drive aggressively, but not recklessly.
Recklessly. Yeah.
You say drive recklessly?
Yeah. It's how to make money that way. If you're going to drive straight and doing maybe using the law, it will never work.
The city's taxi fleet appears to be held together by improvisation and the goodwill of the people, regardless of the dangers they face. And frankly, there's not much option. Waiting for the local bus feels like an eternity. Maybe I should have stuck with Colin.
Hello, I'm David Hardacre in Beirut, a city which is once again under siege. It seems everyone's waiting for the next bomb to go off here, and that includes Lebanon's Prime Minister, Fouad Senora. He spends most of his time holed up in the government building behind me. No wonder, because, as he told me, he believes he could be assassinated any day. Another anti-Syrian politician killed last week. A powerful car bomb on the Beirut seafront. It was an echo of the assassination 2 years ago of the former Lebanese Prime Minister Rafik Hariri. He was killed by a massive bomb blast. It shook Lebanon to the core. And it brought to centre stage the most unlikely of Arab leaders. Fouad Senora, a banker, a close friend of Rafik Hariri, and a man fond of Arab poetry. There was euphoria in the streets back then. The US called these protests the Cedar Revolution. The mass protests drove Syria out of Lebanon after more than 30 years. Soon, though, the power of the people gave way to the power of the gun. Politicians who've stood against Syria have been murdered. One after the other, after the other. It's been clear somebody doesn't want a United Nations tribunal into the killing of Rafik Hariri to ever take place. Fuad Senora, though, faced even more pressure. Almost 12 months ago, Israel launched a savage retaliatory attack on his country. The leader of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, had authorized a cross-border attack on Israeli soldiers, taking 2 as hostages. The 34-day assault brought Fuad Senora to breaking point when he addressed his Arab League brothers. Lebanon has been rebuilding, but Fuad Senora's relationship with Hezbollah has collapsed. Hundreds of thousands of Hezbollah supporters streamed into Beirut to demand that the Prime Minister and his government go. A coalition of Fuad Senora's enemies set up a tent city at the doors of the Prime Minister's office in the heart of Beirut. They're still there. A new front in Fuad Senora's battles opened in the north of the country. Heavily armed militants, a group called Fatah al-Islam, seized control of the Nahr al-Barid refugee camp, home to more than 30,000 Palestinian refugees. Fatah al-Islam, too, has demanded the overthrow of the Senora government, and they vowed a fight to the death with the Lebanese army. It's left Beirut, again, a city living behind the razor wire and strangled by security. I recorded my interview with Fuad Senora just before the last assassination in Beirut. Fuad Senora, welcome to Foreign Correspondent.
Well, thank you very much.
I wanted to go to Fatah al-Islam, the battle which the Lebanese army's been having up north at Nahr al-Barid, refugee camp. What does Fatah al-Islam really want?
This group is in fact nothing but a group of terrorists. They have nothing to do with Islam, they have nothing to do with the cause of Palestine, and what they have done is a series of crimes. Actually, the people who are really fighting are not all Palestinians. They are only a small group of Palestinians, and the rest, some Lebanese, some are Syrians, some are from various countries, some from Afghanistan, from Saudi Arabia, from here and there, you see. They are being assembled, trying to tell them that they are fighting for Islam.
Who is backing them?
Who is backing them? You will see that this team was really came into being as an offshoot of Fatah al-Intifada. And Fatah al-Intifada is a Palestinian group which its headquarters is in Damascus.
So you're convinced that this group is backed by Syria?
I think we have, in the basis of confessions, some linkage with the intelligence groups in Syria.
What do you think Syria really wants? Are they trying to accumulate cards to trade with the number of the cards they hold, that they would trade with the West for some favourable conditions?
Let me start by saying, let me tell you what we want, first of all. We want very good relations with Syria. And we don't want to be a source of headache to Syria. The same thing, we don't want any headache that comes to us from Syria. So this is what do we have? We have an issue that some people say that this is considered to be a way of an unfriendly thing towards Syria, which is the International Tribunal.
You say you don't want to be a problem to Syria, yes. But the mere supporting of this tribunal is the problem, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, that's why we have been always trying to clarify our position and to make it very clear in front of everybody that this is what we want.
For all the trouble that it's actually brought Lebanon, what is the use actually of having a finding from this tribunal? What will the point of the finding be?
It's not only to get to know who really assassinated Rafiq Hariri, the former Prime Minister, as well as many others. It is to deter any future assassinations, particularly that dozens of people were assassinated before. You see, Hariri is the third Prime Minister that is assassinated in Lebanon. There are two presidents in Lebanon who were assassinated. A number of clerics, a number of editors, a number of leaders of thoughts. You see, in my cabinet now, who was assassinated, and two, there was an attempt against their lives, and they spent months and months in the hospital.
You were very close to Mr. Hariri. I wonder if you can recall the moment that you heard about his assassination.
Yes, I was in my office then, and not very far from the place in which the explosion took place. And I really couldn't believe it first. And it was something that I can't forget in my life. It's too sad. The relationship between Harry and myself goes back to when we were children at school. And we were politically active together. And then we worked together in so many things.
You've mentioned the number of prime ministers who have been assassinated before you. Do you yourself fear assassination?
You see, nobody can know his future and his destiny. But I'm a man who believes in God, and I know that if it is destined that I'm going to die this way or that way, nobody can change. One can take all the necessary precautions, but one has to really defend his principles and defend the things that he believes in, irrespective. Otherwise, if these are the risks and everybody then chickens out, then nobody will really make a change. I believe in what I'm doing. I'm very serene, exactly, about what I'm doing as well. And I believe that I have no personal enemies. What I'm doing is to the best of my country and the best of my countrymen. So I'm not afraid, you see.
It's now almost a year since the Israeli war. It was a part of the UN resolution which ended the war that Hezbollah really be eliminated as a state within a state. Do you think that's happened?
Hezbollah is a Lebanese party, and they have to really become a political party. But this has to come in line with the withdrawal of Israel from the occupied territories, and which is still the Shebaa farms, and this has to come through a proper dialogue between the Lebanese government, the Lebanese people, and Hezbollah.
So if they are still armed, does that not create the conditions for Israel to come back to Lebanon?
Well, this brings me to this problem, which is before the chicken or the egg. Hezbollah was not there in '82. It was a creature that was made possible because of the occupation of Israel to Lebanon. The problem is the occupation.
The United States has dramatically increased its aid to you from, I think, 50 million to something like 770 million US dollars.
This is before this last
before
attack.
the new problem.
Yes.
Indeed. Do you not fear that by accepting this US aid, it plays into the hands of people like Hezbollah and even Fatah al-Islam, who do depict you, with all due respect, as a puppet of the US?
I hear this. I really, I give it with a big smile. Everybody knows my history. I don't have to really tell everybody about my history. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows how much I really work for my country.
What sort of pressure do you feel as being a Muslim leader, a Muslim who is a leader,
that's better. Yes,
who is friendly with the United States in a country where there is a religious, for want of a better word, fundamentalism so against the West? What sort of pressure does that put you under?
I'm very serene with myself, extremely clear. Yeah, no, don't worry at all. And I have been a prime minister for about 22 months now, and I am soft in my words, but very firm in my positions.
Mr. Senora, thank you very much for speaking with Foreign Correspondent.
Thank you very much.
And that's the program. Hello, I'm Emma Griffiths in Kazakhstan. These waters are home to one of the most expensive delicacies in the world, but it may be about to run out. And this is how it's eaten here. On a piece of black bread, you spread it on, a little like we would Vegemite back home. The Caviar Endgame. That's next week on Foreign Correspondent, 9:20 Tuesday. And if you'd like to leave us a message or watch one of our stories on broadband, log on to our website at abc.net.au/foreign. Good night.
Hello, I'm Catherine Stolarchuk. Senior naval officers could face criminal charges over the fatal crash of a Sea King helicopter in Indonesia 2 years ago, which killed 9 Australian Defence Force personnel. An inquiry into the crash has delivered a damning report finding gross deficiencies in the Navy's aircraft maintenance system. The Queensland Police Union has gone on the attack over the decision to prosecute the officer at the centre of the Palm Island death in custody case. Not content with the acquittal of Senior Sergeant Chris Hurley, the union has launched an advertising blitz accusing the Queensland Premier of political interference. And construction union official Joe McDonald has been suspended from the Labor Party for abusing an employer at a Perth building site. He's defended his actions, saying the building site where he was filmed was plagued with safety problems. And that's ABC News.
This week on Words, we meet a man who wanted to become a cartoonist but got derailed into hedonism, gambling and debt, and along the way learnt enough about life to enable him to write a cartoon-like satirical novel about the dark side of America.
DBC Pierre.
That book, Vernon God Little, went on to win its author, DBC Pierre, the 2003 Booker Prize.
As Lloyd Bridges famously said, I think I picked the wrong week to give up sniffing glue.
DBC Pierre was born Peter Finlay, but a school friend nicknamed him Dirty Pierre, after a cartoon character. And later on he became DBC, Dirty But Clean Pierre. And when he was a boy, Peter's family moved to Mexico, where he grew up in a wealthy expatriate American community whose teenage children had plenty of money and not many limits. And when Peter was still a teenager, his father became ill and died, and Peter went off the rails into a life of drug-taking and thrill-seeking on the fringes of crime. Peter Finlay showed artistic talent at an early age and always believed he'd be an artist, and he now sees his hedonistic opportunism as a misguided attempt to bankroll a creative life. But after 10 desperate years,